The milk in our Vedas, even in the Bible, is the milk of a cow who we are serving. I give her more reverence than my own mother. Gaumata, a Gaumata.
All the cows who do not have a calf, they need to be injected with hormones. And this is a reality, Shreya, happening every day with every cow, morning, evening. Even in the nicest of goshalas, after the cow stops giving milk, many of them want to keep that cow.
We have been to hundreds and hundreds of dairy farms. Once she stops producing milk, is sent for slaughter. When an animal dies, take it to your stomach. Aren't you making your stomach a graveyard then?
It's your choice. Pay the farmer now or pay the pharma later.
So why do we continue justifying the use of dairy and milk in our diets today?
In our vegetarian households, we don't want to associate the milk industry with the meat industry. So whoever I've spoken to who comes from a vegetarian family saying, when you drink milk, you're actually contributing to meat. They're like, how?
Welcome to Sustainability with Shreya. Today, we're honored to have the visionaries behind the Satvic movement, a movement that has transformed millions of lives. Their work is a revolution in how we understand healing, rooted in ancient wisdom, driven by a deep passion for helping others. They've inspired and healed people across the world, bringing health, clarity, and purpose to so many. This conversation is about the profound impact that they've created, and I'm so excited to dive into the incredible journey behind it all. Health educators, change makers, and authors, Harshvardhan and Subah, Saraf, welcome to Sustainability with Shreya.
Thank you for having us here. We're really excited, looking forward to this conversation. And let's get started.
Me too. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited
and
we're
we
doing
must
this.
say you have a really beautiful set, so full of plants, so full of green.
Thank you.
Feels so aligned with what we also believe in and what we promote at Satvic movement.
Trying to have a mini oasis of forest in the city as much as we can.
It does look like that.
Thank you. It's fully vegan as well. We've tried making it as vegan and sustainable as possible, and thrifted stuff and rented stuff and done all of that. But starting off with the Satvic movement, I do want to start off with the word Satvic. What does it mean? Can you explain the term Satvic? And how's that different from Ayurveda as well?
Sure. So the word Satvic actually comes from our ancient texts, ancient Indian texts. And what it simply means, it has a very simple meaning. It simply means the mode of goodness. And the way we can understand it better is by comparing it to the other gunas that are also spoken about in comparison to the Satvic guna, which are called Rajasic and Tamasic guna.
What is that mean?
So these three gunas, Satvic, Rajasic and Tamasic, are, you can think of them as qualities, characteristics that reside within each of us at any given time. And you, me, Harsh, anyone sitting in this room is dominated by one or the other of these three gunas. So Satvic is the mode of goodness. You can think whenever you feel in your day, whenever you feel a sense of deep compassion towards others, you feel very peaceful, you feel grounded, you feel like you're able to control your senses, you feel like serving others, you feel a sense of warmth and love towards others. You can think of yourself to be in this state of being in those times, in the Satvic state of being. Rajasic is very different. It's the second guna. It is the mode of passion. So Rajasic is defined by characteristics such as when you feel like acting, you feel excited, you feel pumped up, you feel like doing things, you feel motivated. That's Rajas. It's not bad in any way, but it's a different part of our being. However, when this Rajasic state becomes excessive in our being, when it increases far beyond it should, then it causes restlessness, it causes anxiety, it causes fear. We feel fearful, we feel egoistic. And the last of the three gunas is Tamas, which is also called Tamasic guna, which is very different to Sattva and Rajas. It's the mode of ignorance. When we are operating in the mode of tamas, we feel very lazy. We feel like we don't feel like acting. We feel like doing nothing. We feel like just sleeping all day. We feel like wasting our day. We feel we just want to be idle. We feel lethargy in our bodies, in our minds, inertia. So one way that the ancient texts again describe these three gunas is by using the example of Ravan, of Vibhishan, and of Kumbhakaran from the Ramayana. And Ravan, of course, extremely aggressive, egoistic, is a perfect example of excess of the Rajasic guna. Kumbhakaran was very different. Everyone would know that he used to sleep for 6 months of the year and he used to eat for the remaining 6 months. That is how tamas is defined. Lethargy, inertia, laziness. And Vibhishan, even though he was their brother, he ultimately didn't want to support the evil. He wanted to support goodness in the world. So he joined forces with Lord Ram. So he's a perfect example of a person who's dominated by sattva. So these are the three gunas, and being sattvic simply means you're living your day majorly dominated by sattva.
So goodness and purity.
Yes, absolutely.
How is that different from Ayurveda? Do people confuse the two? Is there confusion between what is Sattvic and what is Ayurvedic?
So in the way Subha defined the word Satvic, it is not limited to food or limited to a healing science. It's a way of life, or it's the way we look at life. It's our approach to life. It's the Satvic way of looking at life. We're here to help others, serve others, live in the mode of compassion. And when we talk about Ayurveda, at least how we see it in today's context, it's seen as a modality to heal. Of course, it's more than just a healing modality in the sense it's a lifestyle as well. But I feel Satvic can be like there's a healing component, but more than that, it's just how you approach life, how you live life. So if we were to specifically discuss the healing components of the two, there are many similarities and there are a few differences. So we can speak about the differences, but I feel there are so many similarities that it's better to not get caught up in, okay, in Ayurveda we look at it this way, but in the Satvic healing plan, why is it done this way? And 90% is the same. I would say they both align in the way that both the Satvic healing plan and the Ayurvedic way of life are pretty much saying align back with how Mother Nature wants us to be, align back with our natural way of living. So yeah, all I'm saying is let's focus on the similarities, because both of them want us to go away from, let's say, the fast food, processed food, or the unnatural ways of living.
Yeah, what are the unnatural ways of living, you said?
I think one of the unnatural ways of living that both sort of are inspiring us to move away from is modern medicine, and how today it's become so common, allopathic medicine, pills, tablets, and whether it's the Ayurvedic approach to life or the Satvic approach to life, it's saying that you don't need to rely on external stimulus to heal you, because the best healer in the world is not sitting in some pill or some tablet or a vaccine or a serum outside of you. It's sitting right within. And when you're able to form a relationship with this healer, and you're able to know that God has sent this beautiful, magnificent healer right inside your body, you don't need an external healer, because that healer is more powerful than any other healer. So whether it's Ayurveda or it's the Satvic way of life, I think the fundamental core belief in both is that there is a healer within. And if we form a relationship with this healer, we can heal anything and we can live a life of optimal health.
That's beautiful. Speaking of healing, you've both reversed and cured your own diseases. I know you had PCOD and hypothyroidism, and you had asthma and psoriasis, if I'm not wrong. What made you decide to follow alternative medicine instead of traditional medicine? And why did you focus on reversing these diseases without any medicines or pills? And how did that journey unfold?
To be honest, we weren't really looking for a natural alternative. We were doing what most people do: go to the best doctors and get the best medicines and try to heal ourselves. And we did that for years, till a point where we were like, but it was not working. And for me personally, it came to the point where Before I would go to the doctor, I would go so often because I would fall sick so often. I would almost know what prescription I'm going to get because it would almost sort of repeat over the years. And there came this time when I was like, this is not working. We need to find something that actually works. And on this journey of struggling or trying something, it eventually led to a point where I realized what we are putting inside our body each day is what is directly causing how we will feel the next day. And this realization was, it took some time to arrive at, but that's when I started changing what I was putting on my plate, how I was leading my day-to-day life. So to answer your question, initially we were, going to the best doctors and trying to find the right medicines. But yeah, we didn't get any answers there. So yeah, sinusitis, asthma, eczema, was able to reverse these problems simply by cutting out the foods that didn't support my body and adding those natural foods that come directly from Mother Nature, which have all the nutrients, the energy that we need. And took some time to learn this, but today feel so grateful that we learned it at a young age and are able to live healthy, vibrant, energetic, bustling lives.
Yeah, and to pass that message on to millions of people as well. Because I know there's a part in the book that says that behind every disease lies a cause that no drug can reach. And the medicine isn't healthcare, food is healthcare, which is absolutely accurate. And I wish more people followed that.
That's one of my favorite quotes from the book also, that the food industry, what was it?
The food industry
pays
no attention.
The food industry pays no attention to health, and then we are treated by the health industry, which pays no attention to food.
Yeah.
And we found it so interesting how, as a society, we're just sort of shuffling between these two industries who are both trying to make a profit of our ignorance, of our unknowingness of a natural lifestyle.
So the quote is, it's your choice. Pay the farmer now or pay the pharma later. It's like you can go to the farmer's market today or you can go to the pharmacy 10 years from now.
You'll have to spend the same money in your life, because if you're going to the farmer's market, you'll have to spend more money buying some fruits and vegetables, and that might increase your daily budget a little bit, but you will not need to pay the pharma, which is a pharmacy, 10 years down the line, buying painkillers and steroids and antiseptics and creams and, all different kinds of medicines.
I'm a deep believer in that nothing is cheap. It comes at a huge hidden cost. And I know you mentioned that in the book as well. Just because something is cheap now, there's hidden costs like to our health or to the environment or to people, animals, whatever that might be. That nothing is cheap because it comes at a price, and it's usually someone else that's paying the price, or we pay it later. And it's just not what we factor into. We don't factor that when we're buying or purchasing the product.
Yeah.
You've grown up in a Jain family, growing up with Jainism. Speaking of ahimsa, how does Jainism intersect with the Satvic diet?
I think the most common similarity between a Satvic diet and the diet that I saw my elders, my grandfather, my grandmother, follow while I was growing up was that they were both founded on grounds of ahimsa, which meant that as a human, it is our duty to cause least violence to other living beings in order to live and to thrive. And as you were asking me this question, there was a story that came to my mind. I think I was a very small girl, and my aunt in my house, my Taiji, narrated the story to me, and I was probably a child back then, and it just stayed with me. It was about a saint, a Jain saint, who was once walking on the road, and while he was walking on the road, he was walking tiptoe, and he was walking for a long time. He was just walking tiptoe, and others around him saw him walking that way, and they asked him that, why are you walking like this? Why don't you just walk normally? What's wrong with you? And he would say that, no, you see, there's so many little tiny ants on the ground, and while I walk, I just want to make sure that my walking doesn't destroy or doesn't disturb a single ant on that ground. And it was a very small anecdote, but I felt somewhere back then it left such a deep impression on me that we can actually live that way, that we humans are capable of feeling so much oneness with other beings and living in awareness that we share the planet with other beings, and we can live in a way of causing least disturbance to them, that it really stayed with me. And I feel like it shaped a lot of my morals, a lot of my beliefs when I grew up. And later in my life, I understood that everything that my family was practicing growing up was not random. Like growing up, I saw these things as a bit random. Like, it's just like they're doing it, they don't really know it.
Same.
And
I always question, I'm like, why do we not eat after 6 p.m.? Why do we do
yeah,
this? Why do we do that? But I didn't know the scientific reason behind it.
yeah. And then when I grew up and I got introduced to this science of health and healing, and I went to different institutes around the world who were healing people with diseases, I saw the same practices being followed there, whether it was eating a plant-based diet, or it was eating before sunset, or it was, having an ahimsa diet. And then I realized, oh my God, like my family, my parents, my grandparents already knew this, which is taking the rest of the world so much time to understand and to know. So I think, I feel very blessed that I was born in a Jain family, which allowed me to develop a very strong ground when it comes to being able to feel that sense of compassion towards other living beings.
You both are very vocal about the manipulating marketing tactics that the large corporations use. And I remember listening to one talk that said that no one profits off selling fruits to us, or selling healthy food. And you should basically avoid anything that's sold on a TV. If it has a TV commercial, it's not good for you. Would you like to touch more upon that, especially because we've seen so many ads of dairy products and milk growing up, that we've been told you need milk for strong bones and for calcium. Where does calcium really come from, and what's the reality behind animal agriculture?
The reality is, Shreya, that I can talk in context to milk, let's say right now, where our milk comes from, where it's actually produced, having been to those places ourselves, we know I don't know what the appropriate word is, but the patheticness or the utter despair of that scenario is so, the actual environment is so bad, it's so not hygienic, that it would need a lot of marketing to cover up where the reality is. So if one were to use, oh, look how clean our environment is, look how well we treat our cows, if they were to explain it through that method, they wouldn't need to market so much, because the product would speak for itself, or the natural habitat of the cows would speak for itself, because the actual process of the way milk is taken and the environment in which the cows are kept is so away from their natural way of living. There's no surprise that needs a lot of marketing dollars to ensure that as consumers, we never see that.
Yeah.
And all we see are
Happy cows.
beautiful lush greens, some cows smiling on the packets, as
Animated cow.
though it's that particular smiling cow that has, where your milk has come from. So having seen that reality, it would take a lot of money to ensure that that never comes forth. And all we think of is, oh, that's nice, very beautiful cow. So I think marketing strategies are directly related to how tough the scenario, like how not nice a situation is on the ground. So one needs to cover that up in terms of...
What I've seen is cows being tied with short ropes that they can't move around. They are peeing and defecating in the same place that they're standing. It's not like they get any walks or exercise or any of that. And obviously the calves being taken away from the mothers as soon as they're born. And it's come such a long way from what it used to be, right? Back in the day, because people say that we've been drinking milk for centuries, but it was so different back then compared to what the process is now. Would you like to talk about that? Because I know you've been to a lot of dairy farms across the country.
Yeah.
So why do we continue justifying the use of dairy and milk in our diets today?
So, for both of us, we grew up in environments where milk was a daily part of our diets. Like to see our plate without a cup of
Dahi.
dahi or curd felt like our plate was incomplete. Or to see our parantha with like a dollop of ghee poured on top of it felt like our parantha was incomplete. Or to go to school without drinking a glass of milk felt like,
Something's missing.
we'd made a mistake in the morning.
Forced every morning you drink
Yeah.
a glass of milk. Yeah.
So both of us, cheese, paneer, chas, milk, curd, ghee, these were like
Daily staples.
daily staples for both of us. And we never imagined, like, if someone said, oh, there's a way to live without dairy, we would laugh at them, we would mock them, and we would think they're mad or they're crazy people to even assume something like that, like something like this is possible to do. But I think when we came across this idea that there could be another reality which is not being shown to us as a society, that the reality that is being painted to us is very different than the reality that is actually going on behind the scenes. When we started to realize this, I think our beliefs began to change. And when we got the knowledge, it was impossible to not bring it into action. Like once you know the truth, once you've seen the truth, you can't not act upon it, or you can't unsee it. And for us, I think, though we had heard about the conditions of the dairy industry time and again through movies, through documentaries, through books, it was only, I believe, last year when we actually began our research on ground that we really got convinced that what's happening is not what's being shown. So it was actually when we were writing the chapter on dairy in the book, The Satvic Revolution, we were so confused what to write. Like, this is a topic which is the most debated topic, right? This topic is a topic most controversial. Even at Satvic movement, whenever we speak about it, we want to share this truth out with people, but there's also this little resistance that, oh, there's going to be just so many people who are going to cross you and ask you backlash. But of course, we still need to speak this truth out. So we just felt, where do we start writing this chapter from? How do we begin?
It took you the longest to write, right?
It took us the longest to write. So I still remember we were in Calcutta when we were writing this chapter. I used to open like a Word doc and start typing, and I was just blank that day. I think I spent like 1 hour just feeling blank. And I told Harsh that we can't do this. Like, we need to see what's happening on ground.
It's not feeling right.
It's not
to
feeling
write
right
about it without knowing the truth.
Writing all this just based on other people's experiences and other people's anecdotal evidence. But we haven't seen it for ourselves. So there was a person, his name was Harsha, and he had made this documentary called Maa Ka Doodh, an eye-opening documentary.
Yeah.
And we just called him up and we asked him that, listen, we need to do some research for the chapter of our book, and we want to visit dairy farms and we want to see what's happening on ground. Can you guide us? And he was like, okay, and he was extremely helpful. He was like, okay, just go. We were like, what do you mean? Like, will they let us in? Will they even let us see what's happening at the farms? He was like, of course, just go, pretend like you're college students, and just tell them that you're there for research. Don't say that, you're telling people to not have milk or anything like that. And we were like, are you sure?
Our intention was never to tell people not to have milk as such. Our intention was, let's know what the reality is. Yeah.
We were like, are you sure? He was like, yeah. And he said, yeah, just when you go there, just you have to be mindful of one thing. You will feel a lot of things when you step into the dairy farm. Do not let your face show what you're feeling, he said. And we were like, okay, we didn't understand it at that moment. Then the city we first started visiting dairy farms in was Calcutta. Since we were already there, we found this belt of dairy farms, which was 1 hour away from our home. And we left, I think, the next day at 5 in the morning. We reached the dairy farms. And I think that's when we understood what he really meant. Because we, this time, saw everything that we had been hearing about, all those brutal practices that were inflicted upon the cows. We saw those practices happening firsthand. And I personally felt a lot of things. And then I remembered what he said, that don't let them see, because if they see that you're getting emotional, then they won't let you in, or they won't show you the whole reality, the dairy farmers. But what we saw there, I think, was just something we knew, but we didn't really know. The first thing that I think disturbed me for many nights after that was that every single cow who we saw there was tied to a 3 feet rope, and the cow wasn't treated like a living entity. She was treated like an object, like this cup. She's treated like this cup, which has no feelings, no emotions, and
Milk producing machine.
a milk producing machine. And in when we see the packets or the Tetra packs of milk, what do we see? We see like this, as Harsh was saying, a lush garden, a lush grassland where cows are roaming and mooing and being fed good quality grass. But what we saw there was a shed which had, like, imagine this size of this room, and it had 30 cows packed side by side, and they were tied. So whoever's listening to this podcast right now, just extend your arm and think of your fingertip, and think of the distance between your fingertip to your shoulder. This is the distance, this is the length that the rope used to be. And she was tied to this rope from the moment she walked into that farm till the moment she had to walk out of that farm where she was being sold for slaughter, the cow. And that was her life, day in and day out, and day in and day out. She would pee there, she would poop there, she would basically need to do everything there. She didn't have the ability to even turn around. And I think when we saw this was one of the most disturbing things for us to see. And when we asked the farmers that, भैया आप इनको खुला नहीं छोड़ते क्या, मतलब कैसे पॉसिबल है कि वो यहीं रहती है पूरा टाइम, इनको बीमार नहीं हो जाती क्या कि अगर बाहर आप नहीं छोड़ेंगे तो. सो देयर आंसर वाज, आप ही बताइए कहाँ छोड़ेंगे हम इनको खुला, आपको दिख रहा है क्या कोई जगह? Because most of these sheds used to be in areas where there was city life right outside. Like, there was no grass, there was no patches of green land. They were right in the middle of like a village, and there was no space to leave them out in the open. And for us, when they used to say this, we used to be surprised that, okay, they never let them, like never, not once a day, not like once in 1 week, they never let them out. But what was even more surprising was that we were asking them these questions. Like, they were looking at us like, what are you asking? You think we can leave them open? So I think that really took us aback and made us...
I remember we went to this farm, and the person, we asked him, कि थोड़ा तो आप छोड़ते होंगे, you can move around. He said, आपको नहीं मालूम ये जानवर है, ये damage कर देंगे, like they will hurt others. And we are looking at him like, do you realize you are keeping this animal tied up the whole day, just squeezing out the milk, and you want to open the animal and you want him to love you? Of course he'll try to run away from here. Of course he'll go wild. Like, you're making it seem like because he'll run wild, we have to keep him tied. He's going to go wild because you're keeping him tied the whole day. For them, the idea of opening the cow was like, ये तो मतलब आपको क्या लगता है हम ये जानवर को छोड़, like as though it's like unthinkable. It was so absurd, the idea that we would open the animal. And I was like, they're so disconnected, or so the gap in terms of connection with that animal and is so distant that it's just another unit in their production cycle of, they almost refer to the animal as how many liters does it give. ये तो 20 देती है, ये तो 25 देती है. That's their way of seeing that. So there's a very big disconnect to try to convince that person that, would you even consider an alternative? There's no... And it's not, they're just workers there at the end of the day. There's much more behind the scenes.
Picture.
Yeah.
So that was the first shocking fact.
Yeah.
Was there more? to the story, as because you visited quite a few across the country.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that when we are collecting our thoughts, our opinion, our stance about this topic, we're not just looking at one city, and we're looking at a range of different places where dairy farms exist. So we went to Calcutta, we went to visit the dairy farms in Mumbai, in Chennai,
Delhi.
in Delhi. And we saw that, of course, there were small differences in how each city conducted its dairy farms, but the underlying practices were exactly the same. They were exactly the same things that were happening to the cows in all of these dairy farms. The second most shocking thing I think that we saw and we realized was that in all the dairy farms we visited, Shreya, there was the ratio of calves to cows was very disproportionate.
What do you
Like every cow gives a baby, right? Is endures a pregnancy and gives a baby. But at all of these dairy farms, we noticed that if there were 30 cows, there were 2 calves. And we would question the dairy farmers that how come, like, where are their babies? Where did they go? And time and again, we understood from them that shortly after a mother gives birth, mother cow gives birth, her baby is separated from her. And the reason why this happens is because if you let a baby near the mother cow, naturally the baby will drink the milk of his or her mother. And if the baby drinks the milk of the mother, where will the milk remain for the farmer to extract? The baby will drink most of the milk. And hence, the baby is separated from the mother and either sold somewhere or left at the place where he was born. And the mother and the baby are separated. And when we, saw this, a natural question came to our minds that, when we think of this whole thing happening to a cow, we think, ठीक है ना, like गाय तो है, बच्चा को separate कर दिया तो क्या हुआ? But if we think of the same thing in terms of a human mother, that imagine there's a mother who's given birth to her little baby, and the baby is separated from her, and the milk of the mother is extracted by a company to feed to somebody else. Even the mere thought of this would make us feel so angry, and we'd stand up in revolt and try to defend the mother. But when the same thing happens to a mother cow, we just stay quiet and we think, गाय ही तो है, तो क्या हुआ? So, just the fact that in the dairy industry, a mother and a child, their bond is broken at a very early age. And because of this, like any mother, a cow mother also has to suffer from pain, has to suffer from the longing of her child, has to, she feels the same emotions practically that a human mother does. And when a baby is separated, she feels that pain, she feels that despair, she feels that loneliness that a human mother does. And yeah, but for the dairy farmers, those aren't emotions. It's a machine. She's a machine. So
wouldn't mothers stop giving milk if a child is taken away, or if a child is no longer alive, for that matter, if they're being sold or starved to death, in whatever circumstance? How do these cows continue producing milk and giving milk even after the baby calf is taken away or in some circumstances passed away?
I think all these questions are exactly those questions that we also had. And while we were on our visits, we would ask the farmers these same exact questions. And when you are asking this now, it's almost as though we can tell you what they were telling us. And they are doing this day in and day out. So while we were at one of these farms, it was around 3 p.m. and he was busy milking the cow. For clarity, when we say cow, we are referring to cows and buffaloes both, because in India, more than half the milk comes from buffaloes. So we saw a little something red trickling down one of the backs of the cows. We just wondered, what is it? What something red was. So we asked the farmer who was busy milking the cow, like, क्या है भैया? What is it? He said, oh, like, कुछ नहीं, उसको मैंने अभी सुई डाला है ना, तो थोड़ा कुछ हुआ है. And we were like, it looks like blood, and it looks like it shouldn't be there. Like, why is the blood coming out of the cow's back? But he said that kuch sui dala hai, and then he just pointed at little syringe kept in the corner. It didn't make sense. We didn't fully understand. So we just observed. And when he was finished milking this cow, before he moved to the next cow in the line, he took up that same syringe, pumped it with some liquid, and he just goes, patak, jabs the cow. And right before the cow's getting jabbed, of course she knows, so she tries to move, and he goes so hard that the cow doesn't have time to move. And this is the action I'm doing right now. Patak, jab. And then he takes it out, and then he just presses it in the middle. And we were like, iski kya zarurat? Aap doodh nikalo, ye kyun kar rahe ho? He's like, uski to bachri nahi hai na, to abhi wo kaise degi? Ye to dalna padta hai. So to answer your question, all the cows who do not have a calf, which is majority, they need to be injected with hormones in order for them to produce milk. If they're not injected with these hormones, the natural system will not generate milk because the calf is not around. And this is a reality, Shreya, happening every day with every cow, morning, evening, because they're mostly all milked twice. So they're all injected each time. We asked कि भैया है क्या, मतलब what is the दवाई? तो मार्केट में मिलता है सर, पता नहीं क्या है, तो डालते हैं हम. There's no label on the packaging. This is just some liquid. They have no idea what it is. All they know that it allows the cow to give more milk. And that action of them jabbing is so commonplace that it didn't feel like, do we need to sterilize? Do we need to think, is it in good condition? What is the expiry? It's like washing our face, we just wake up, brush our teeth. It's so normal. Them taking that patak jabbing was just, the sheer lack of empathy towards, I'm going to inject something in a being and I'm going to have to stab it every day, twice a day. It's just another thing they have to do. So I think that's the reality behind how milk is extracted in our country without any young calves around. And in those, I'm just adding on this, we went to some conscious dairy farms. When I say conscious, they weren't necessarily commercial. So they were slightly more mindful. You could say so, yeah. And there were calves in those areas because they were also a little more mindful. So they didn't want to sell the calves and they kept the calves. Now the interesting part which we saw here, Shreya, was even if the calf is around, the mother cow will not give milk till the calf is near the cow. So I saw this happen and I was like, this is so cruel. They brought the calf. Oh no, the calf was tied away far. So they just opened the calf. At the moment the calf is released, they run to the mother because they want to drink the milk. The moment they reach the mother, they allow the calf to have a couple of sips. Just start sucking the udders. Within 2 seconds, they have to pull away the calf. And that's not easy because the calf is also strong and the calf really wants to be near the mother because it's been let out after a long time. They really have to use all their strength, and these are strong farmers, to pull the calf away. The calf is skidding and moving away, and these are unconscious places. And they tie the calf right next to the mother, close enough the mother sees the calf, far enough so the calf can't drink the milk. And we are standing right there. So this is not that they are that they're doing it in as nice a way as they can because we are there. And this is they would have to, I'm guessing they would be behaving themselves better. And the idea that the calf is there watching the farmer milk the cow, and the mother is seeing the calf there, but now the system has started, so now the milk comes out. And then we asked, so ye aap roz karte ho? Do you have to do this every day? They're like, bina bacche ke to doodh kaise milega? And then the bacha is brought every day and this process is repeated every day. So एक आपको बच्चे को दूध नहीं देना है, नहीं वो सुबह ले लिया, मतलब अभी बहुत है उसके लिए. That they are calculating that this is how much we need to deliver or whatever, give to the people. So this much the calf is enough now. So this was the first half where there's no calves and the injections were happening was traumatizing, that the poor cow is going through this twice a day, every day. But the idea that when the calves are present, it's also, I don't know, it's almost we are tricking the cow into this idea. So when we saw this happening in the nicer places, the so-called, that this is, without that it won't work, the industry, there's no way the cow will give milk if the child is not around. It's just not designed. So the idea of milk means there's cruelty involved.
Absolutely. Because I think I would imagine a mother only produces enough milk, whatever's required for her child. I don't think she produces any excess amount because that's how, humans also work. And I know cows are also pregnant for 9 months, which is the exact same time as a human mother. But the amount of stress, hormones, fear, grief, all of these things, is that also being passed on in the milk that we consume? Or what is in the milk that
There's
we
actually
drink?
research. I mean, this is something that we can't see from our naked eye as to how much of what is going into the milk. But there's a lot of research out there, Shreya, today, which explains there's a direct correlation between the conditions in which the cows are kept, the stress that they experience, and the cortisol levels that are directly inside the milk that we actually drink. So I think it would be wise to state the research here as opposed to our opinions or thoughts. So what the research mentions is that if the cows are in stressful situations, whether high temperatures or lack of space, there will be a huge amount of cortisol in the milk, which is stress hormones, which is not good for us. Now, that's where it stops. Right? The researcher, if this has happened, from our experience, there was not a single cow farm which had anywhere close to nice conditions. So in other words, there is stress hormones in all the milk that is coming through, because that's not what people test for when they pay for the milk. They just look at the packaging and, oh, it's such a great brand, we like the brand, so let's consume.
Wow. So there is hormone. There are hormones in our milk. There is cortisol, as you said. What nutritionally, why do we still drink milk and why do we still say that it's good for our bones and that we need calcium? Is it really a source of calcium, and where does calcium really come from?
So, the reason why we hold on to this idea that milk gives us calcium, and if we don't drink milk, we will get weak, our bones will get weak, is because the tradition of milk is not new, as we all know. It's been passed down from generations and generations and generations, and it is more deep-rooted than we can imagine. The natural question that anyone would ask is that even in Lord Krishna's time, he would be a lover of butter, he'd be a lover of milk. So it's coming from so many generations.
Amrit, we still call it Amrit.
Call it Amrit.
Milk is Amrit, and it's, as you rightly pointed out, it's in Mahabharata, it's in a lot of ancient scriptures.
Absolutely. So the reason why there is such a dissonance today, and the reason why we at Satvic Movement, or the work you are doing, we're all moving towards a plant-based lifestyle, is because the milk that our ancient texts talk about and the milk we are getting today are not the same. They are not the same liquid. They're just poles apart. Because also the milk in our Vedas, in whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's Mahabharata, whether it's even, in the Bible, there is a huge mention of milk. The milk that we're talking about in that is the milk of a cow who we are serving as a mother, who we have in our own home, who we are taking care of as a family member, which was the case till many years back, where she was not seen as a commodity. She was seen as a mother, a person. If I'm living, going back, say 200 years back from today, if I'm living in a village, I have a small hut. Right outside my hut, I have a shed. In that shed lives a cow. In the morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is I go do a pranam to the cow. I see her as I give her more reverence than my own mother, a cow mata. I am not injecting hormones. That's an unheard thought. I'm not injecting her, stabbing her. I'm not tying her up the whole day. She's roaming on fresh open fields. She's getting to eat grass of many fields, which is nutritionally giving her a lot of value. And she was a family member of the home. And even then, the calf was always with her. The calf was never separated and sold away. The first right over that milk remained to be the calf's right. And only if there was anything that remained after the calf had taken, the homeowner who was, taking care of the cow would extract it and take it for him and his family at max. He would never even sell it. And that is the tradition that was being followed back then, and that is the tradition that so many of our Vedas and scriptures talk about.
Selling that milk, was almost considered like, imagine selling your mother's milk. Like, that's, if you were to even give it to someone, it would be a gift, it would be an act of love. It would never be, this is my source of income. That was, back in the day, it was a part of the families, you don't sell this. So the idea of selling milk was, imagine selling your mother's milk. That's how equivalent it would be.
Yeah, you're so right about that. It was unheard of, and as you said, they only took what they needed and nothing in excess, because it wasn't an organized dairy sector.
Yeah.
There was no factory farming. There was no animal agriculture as an industry as it is today did not exist. And we are one of the largest producers of, I don't know if we are the largest or one of the largest producers of milk in the world.
Yeah.
But we're also one of the largest exporters of beef and leather.
Yeah.
And so many people don't see the correlation between how the dairy industry is the meat industry, and that is the leather industry. And I'm sure you must have chanced upon that as well.
I don't know if they don't see the difference, the connection, or they don't want to see the connection, because especially in our vegetarian households, we don't want to associate the milk industry with the meat industry, because then somewhere you have to start justifying that how. So there's, the connection is very apparent, but because it's so uncomfortable, one wants to not look at it. So whoever I've spoken to who comes from a vegetarian family saying, when you drink milk, you're actually contributing to meat. They're like, how? And no, but see, we're not harming the animal. So there's a sense of, don't show me that part. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
So
what would you like to tell vegetarians that actually don't know? Because there's so many vegetarians, as you said, think that, oh, but we get the milk from this source, we get it from a goshala, we get it, from an ethical source, whatever that might be, and we only consume that much and it's good for your health. But they don't understand the larger connection, that there is blood in our milk. How would you make someone who's vegetarian understand the connection between dairy and meat?
I think there is no easy answer, Shreya. And here I would like to share how we sort of look at this topic. And why I say there's no easy answers, because we do tell people that, see, the difference between how cows were treated earlier, like Subah was sharing, and how they are treated today is very apparent. If they can almost ascertain that those same principles of treating the cow as your mother, taking care of the cow, knowing that the calf is given the first right, knowing that the cow is allowed to graze freely, knowing that the cow is taken care of. If one were to ascertain these things, which is almost impossible given our modern world, in that situation, if they feel they are digestively fit to consume that milk, we don't say don't do it. Even though we know that it's very hard to digest milk, even though that know that milk may or may not be suitable for that person, but we believe it's still that person's choice, given that all these factors are met. So in that regard, we are not hardline vegan to the point where at no condition should no one ever consume milk given. But because it's practically impossible to do those things, rather than trying to tell people do this, and then say we can't, be like, you know what, why do we need to look at it? Let's just consume the right plant-based sources because they are all available. But in terms of answering your question, we tell people, see, this is how our scriptures talk about the cow as a mother. And we ask them to ask yourselves, is your milk fulfilling these conditions? If yes, feel free. As in the sense, that's your decision to make. But we are here to probe you, to help you question, to help you know maybe you're not seeing the full reality. Even in the nicest of goshalas, Shreya, after the cow stops giving milk, not many of them want to keep that cow. It's a burden to continue feeding and taking care of an old aging cow.
Profitable.
Yeah, so some goshalas are saying, listen, we don't want profit, but we still see they also, हम कहीं वो अच्छा दूसरे गौशाला में भेज दिए, आपको पता है कहाँ गया? नहीं, अब वो संभालेंगे. We don't show us that messy side of maybe it's going for slaughter, we don't know what happens, we have given you someone else. the nicer goshalas, there are still these
Yeah.
gray zones.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. So in our understanding, that understanding what Subha described, 200 saal pehle cows would live, treated like a family member, is just not reality. And if someone can aim to recreate that and treat the cow like that, and if they want to consume the milk while the calf is fed first, by all means, it's their choice.
Just want to add, a natural lifespan of a cow is anywhere between 15 to 20 years. But the way the dairy industry operates, keeping the cow pregnant year after year, forced impregnations, making them live in such tight conditions, in such claustrophobic conditions, a cow's capacity to give milk gets diminished after 8 years. So after 8 years, a cow is not able to properly give milk anymore. Now, if you think about it, from her 9th year until her 20th year, what value will she add if she's not giving milk? She's occupying space. She will need food from the farmer. The farmer is not getting anything from her, getting no profit from her. Instead, he has to invest in keeping her, because you have to invest in her shelter, you have to invest in feeding her. So, from a profitability angle, there is a loss to the farmer.
It's a liability.
It's a liability. And for that dairy farmer, he's not doing this because he loves cows. He's doing this because it's his livelihood. He has to feed his own family. It's a way of gaining his bread and butter from that. So for him, it's useless. It's a loss-making entity, that cow. He has no interest to keep that cow. So the natural thing that any businessman, in this case the dairy farmer, does is to give it away. And like Harsh said, they don't like to accept or think where they are giving it away, especially farmers who don't like to accept the fact that they might be sent for slaughter. But every single cow who stops producing milk in India, once she stops producing milk, is sent for slaughter. We have been to hundreds and hundreds of dairy farms. We have not been to one dairy farm, even the conscious dairy farms, who are not sending their cows for slaughter. Every single dairy farm is sending their cow for slaughter to the slaughterhouse. We visited the slaughterhouse ourselves. This was in Calcutta. We were at a dairy farm. It was a very messy kind of a place. Dairy farm next to each other, lots of dairy farms. And we were inquisitive because when we asked that, आप क्या करते हो इन गाय का जब ये दूध देना बंद कर देती है, he told, भेज देते हैं हम, कील में भेज देते हैं, कुर्बानी में भेज देते हैं. And we were like, आप दिखा सकते हो हमें, कहाँ भेजते हो? The dairy farm owner took us to that place. We saw there was a pole hung there. We captured all of this that we're talking about in a video. We recorded footage, live footage of every single episode, every single anecdote that we're talking about, compiled it together, have linked a QR code in the book. Person can scan it, watch all of this happen. We're not making up a single line or a single word. We saw this pole. Every morning, I think 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., a cow is bought there after she has stopped giving milk, hung there and slaughtered once she stops giving milk. We saw the jaw of a cow once it has
from that morning,
which has been extracted because they can't use the teeth of the cow for anything, hung on that pole, and they use it as a mark of pride that we've killed the cow and her jaw is hanging here. And that was, I think, one of the most painful things that we saw that day. That, when we think about meat, Shreya, we think meat is not as bad as milk. Because meat, you raise the animal in painful conditions, okay, but you kill it in one go, right? For milk, the cow has to live for so many years in pain, endure that pain for so many years, die a little every day, and finally you kill it. So there's actually more pain that you're inflicting upon an animal in the case of milk than in the case of meat, if you think about it. So everyone who believes that their milk, I am not causing ahimsa, I am not causing suffering, I am not causing pain because I'm not consuming meat, we're basically living in ignorance. We're not wanting to accept the truth that our milk is causing as much suffering to some cow out there who we don't have a relationship with. But that's the reality. And we don't want to mention brands here, But when we spoke to farmers and we asked them that आप कहाँ बेचते हो ये दूध, they were the same brands that we know of as a country that they sell to. When we think of these big brands, we think that their milk must be different. This only happens with the local milk that's coming in steel boxes. But this is happening behind the scenes of some of the most credible organizations of our country.
Wow, and that's the power of marketing and what is sold to us. Coming back to, as you said, happy cows and making the nation believe that this is our culture and it's almost something that we need for our health and for our bones and for us to live nutritious lives. Apart from the ethical considerations and the exploitation, the cruelty that happens in the industry, considering the health aspects of it, is dairy good for you? And how do you look at it from a Satvic diet point of view as well?
So we can share it on two levels. One is through our own anecdotal account of how we at Satvic movement have witnessed going off dairy in both of our lives and in the lives of thousands of other people who are following the Satvic lifestyle and have done the same. And the second is through modern research that has come up. And what is that saying? So for both of us, when we were having dairy in almost every meal of our day, we realized that our own health problems were just increasing and increasing and increasing. And for me, I can say when I actually left dairy completely, because I was introduced to this way of life by my teacher, is when my PCOD completely reversed. I was someone who used to go for anywhere between 4 to 6 months not getting my menstrual cycle. I had to take a 21-day pill, like it was a 21-day cycle of pills, which you had to take every day to artificially induce the menstrual cycle. And I had hair fall, I had acne, I had PCOD, I had thyroid problems, I had excess weight, and I was taking dairy every day. When I left dairy and of course implemented other Satvic food and lifestyle changes, I realized that so much of the hormones that I was putting inside my body through the milk were actually not made for me. And that is what was causing the hormonal imbalance within me. And giving up that dairy caused my hormones to become balanced again. And thus, the PCOD went away. When the PCOD went away, automatically the skin improved, my acne went away, my weight came back to normal, thyroid problems started to go away. And when I met Harsh, I think one of the things that we found was a big commonality between the two of us. For him also, his whole journey, you can maybe share how it started with just going off dairy.
That was one of the few things I did initially. Stopped having milk and milk products. And because I was suffering from health issues like sinusitis or skin problems, they're very visible. If someone has sinusitis and they can't breathe due to a blocked nose, they know when their nose is not blocked because you can breathe freely. If someone has skin issues and your skin clears up, you can see it. So in my case, when I stopped having milk and milk products, the difference or the improvement in my health was instant. It was like overnight. I was feeling great the next day. I was breathing freer. My skin was clearing up. I was feeling more energetic. So it was a very the conviction came from within versus any research or any doctor telling me, why don't you do it? In fact, a funny incident. I remember when I was still struggling with these health issues, someone had recommended to me that why don't you try, avoiding milk products for some time. Shreya, the first feeling I had was this feeling of how can you be so disconnected? You're like, there's a skin problem. Now give me a cream, give me something to apply.
Give me something external.
Milk, you're
What's
so
the
stupid.
connection?
Come on. The first feeling was of disgust. It was like, you don't know better. I was so disconnected that there's a possible connection between what I'm eating and how I'm feeling. That's how we were raised. That kuch dawai hi theek karega. There needs to be a medicine that will fix you. You haven't found it yet. That was my upbringing. So stopping milk products in my journey was the turning point. and milk products. So it included the ghee, paneer, all aspects. So I've never looked back, in the sense that that conviction is so clear that I'm better off health-wise, leaving aside the ethical considerations. It's not for me.
What is the connection between acne and dairy? Because that's the exact same thing that happened to me. I had a lot of acne. I had PCOD growing up as well. And the second I went off dairy, my skin cleared up. My PCOD reversed as well. My hair got better. Same thing as you explained, energy levels super high. What is the connection? Because I remember a professor once told me that we're all lactose intolerant to any other milk than our own mother's milk. And I think there's about 68% of the global population that also finds lactose or milk really hard to digest. Is that true? Is that why we have acne issues?
Absolutely. There was actually a study which was published in the Lancet where, so within scientific research, the scientific research that is the most credible of all is called a meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is that which doesn't just borrow its conclusion from one study or from one group of people. It borrows its conclusion from a group of many other studies. So this was a meta-analysis which was published in a journal called the Lancet, where it was concluded that today as a society, 3/4 of us, nearly, as you said, 70% of us, are not capable of digesting the lactose which is present in the milk.
Cow's milk.
In cow's milk. Because in order to digest it, our bodies need to produce certain chemicals, certain substances, which we as a society simply cannot produce. And it was concluded how when we are not able to digest it, what would happen of it? That milk, what does digestion mean? Digestion simply means the breaking down of that substance inside our body, that it's being assimilated, it's being thrown away. That's what digestion means. Now, if it was concluded that 3/4 of us as a human species cannot digest it, that milk, the dairy products, are sitting undigested within our bodies. And what we have learned through our ancient scriptures, through different healing modalities, is that undigested food inside our bodies is the root cause of many diseases, be it acne, be it PCOD, be it high blood pressure, be it fatty liver, be it anything. It's undigested food within our bodies. So if you're not able to digest something which we're eating day in and day out, of course it's going to manifest as hair problems, skin problems, digestive problems, respiratory problems. And as soon as we stop it, our digestion starts working better. When our digestion works better, everything in our body works better. Because it's like if you imagine a tree, the root of the tree is where we need to put the nourishment, we need to put the water, not on the leaf, right? Same way, this stomach, this gut is our root. When we fix this, it automatically reflects on every external manifestation of ourselves.
So if I stop consuming milk or animal products or milk products, as you mentioned, where do I get my calcium from? Where do I get my protein from? Because milk is such a high source of both calcium and protein, and milk products such as paneer as well. A lot of vegetarians consume that for protein. What are my alternatives?
So let's talk about protein first. And this is the most asked question in the history of the work we've been doing, that where will I get my protein from a plant-based diet? So protein is definitely an important nutrient for our bodies. It's needed for the growth of our cells, needed for maintenance of our cells. And the amount of protein that you need or anyone needs is dependent on a couple of different factors. It depends on what our age is, what our activity level is, how much, how sedentary we are, on different factors. But as per the top institutes of the world, whether it is WHO, whether it is United Nations, the average amount of protein that a human being needs is 0.83 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight in one day. So let me break it down for you. So let's say someone 60 kgs, they weigh 60 kgs. They simply have to multiply their weight by 0.8. So if you multiply 60 with 0.8, it will come out to be about 50. So essentially they need 50 grams of protein in a day. That's it. I mean, it's not like it's very small amount, but 50 grams is what they need.
Yeah, with the
Now,
obsession of protein that we have, it sounds like we need so much more than what we actually do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, this depends. If someone's working out a lot, they might not need 0.8, they might need 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. If they're doing a lot of strength training, they might need 1.2, 1.3 grams of protein. But for most of us, at least I can say for the people we meet, we're living either a sedentary lifestyle or a moderately active lifestyle. We're not athletes, we're not weightlifting, we're not living very active lifestyles. So for us, around 50, 60 grams of protein is what we need. Now, all plant-based foods that we have a little or more protein. If we see 1 cup of cooked dal, can you guess how much protein it would have? It has about 18 grams of protein. Just 1 cup of cooked dal. If we see 1 cup of cooked chickpeas, it has 15 grams of protein. 1 cup of cooked kidney beans, which is rajma, another 15 grams of protein. If we see a handful of nuts, it has anywhere between 5 to 8 grams of protein. A cup of green leafy vegetables, 8 grams of protein. So we don't need to be so calculative about this, but what I'm arriving to is that all plant-based foods, especially lentils, legumes, pulses, nuts, seeds, and green leafy vegetables, have abundant protein. And if we can design our diet, which the typical Indian diet is designed around, having lentils, having dals, having kidney beans, having chickpeas once or twice in the day, most of us are easily able to meet our need for protein. And if someone is doing strength training, working out, trying to build muscle, trying to gain weight, they simply have to add more of these plant-based sources of protein. But time and again, in different research studies, it is proven that plant-based protein is a much superior protein than animal-based protein. Because if we compare, let's say, meat as a protein source to legumes and lentils as a protein source, yes, meat has protein, but it has 2 other things which come bonus, which, we don't pay attention to. And those 2 things are saturated fat and cholesterol. But with plant-based protein, we have the protein coming in with legumes, with dal, with lentils, but we don't have the cholesterol and the saturated fat. So we have the good thing coming without the bad things. So why would we choose the meat?
What about the carbs? Because so many people argue that, sure, I can have a bowl of dal or lentils, but it has a high amount of carbs. So I'm not able to lose weight, or I can't strength train completely on plant-based protein because of what I'm getting in addition to the protein that I'm consuming. Whereas animal protein may not have the same amount of carbs. Is that true?
Right. So if we are, again, I think it would completely depend on how a person is designing their diet through the day. But if they are having proteins for 1 or 2 times of their meals, and they're supplementing with a lot of vegetables, we have seen in the many people who follow the Satvic lifestyle, they're easily able to meet that protein requirements without a worry. And just also addressing the second question you were asking about calcium, it's also a very important question that we get asked time and again. So actually, do you know where calcium's original source is?
Imagine it's a mineral. Is it a mineral?
Yeah.
It is a mineral, definitely. Science class.
Yeah. So it's
Calcium's
actually
a mineral, so in ground.
exactly. It comes from the earth's crust. Calcium. We think it comes from a cow, but the most original source of calcium comes from the earth crust, and you can Google this. It's everywhere, this information. But then why do we say that milk has calcium? It has calcium, no doubt, because when grass grows on the ground, what happens? When the grass grows, it pulls all this calcium from the ground and puts it in the grass. Now, what does the cow do? What does the cow feed on? On the grass. So it eats grass all day, and the calcium goes from the ground to the grass to the cow. Now, when she produces milk, where does that calcium go? It goes from the ground to the grass, to the cow, to her milk, and then we drink that milk, and that calcium is transferred to us.
Well, we could just get it directly.
We can just get it directly. We don't have to eat grass, but if we just simply start eating plant-based foods that grow on the ground, all plant-based foods have calcium. We don't need milk. We're getting a much more direct source of calcium, actually, when we eat plant-based food. And if someone is more worried about their calcium intake, there are certain plant-based foods which have more calcium. For example, sesame seeds. So instead of having dairy milk, if they simply start having sesame seed milk, which is made by just soaking 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds in water, blending it with water the next day, and that's it. That gives you as much calcium than a glass of cow's milk would.
I've tried all types of milk. Sesame seed milk is going to be a new one for me as well. I tried flaxseed milk recently, and that has a high level of omega. And you're so right about getting our sources, whether that's calcium or protein, directly from plants, because plants are a whole source of both calcium and protein, as you said, because that's where the animals that we consume are getting it from. And I found out recently that the omega, the fish actually get it from the plankton and algae, and it's not fish that are producing the omega, but it's actually the plant source that they eat as well. So everything in a way comes from nature.
Yeah. I think what we don't realize is that a lot of these conditionings that have been surrounding our brains have been created by someone. And that someone is probably wanting us to consume more of these because they have something to gain from it. Whether it's the meat industry, whether it's the protein industry, whether it's the milk industry, how will they have us as a society have more of their products? By making us believe that we can't survive without it, by making us believe that we need more and more of it. And we fall a victim into their conditioning, not realizing that a simple plant-based diet can give us not just what we need, but it can make us actually better, make us more energetic, make us feel lighter, make us reverse our health problems.
You mention, you talk about the word prana and life force in the book. And I think the first habit in this book is also about eating living, whole foods, and also plant-based food. I want to talk about the living part of it because I think there was a kid in one of your workshops who said, how can you gain life by eating something that is dead? We've covered the dairy aspect, but talking about eating animals, what is that process of death like, and what is eating something that has died do to you spiritually, from a health nutrition point of view, as well, considering that? Whereas eating the animals, I think you've mentioned that as well. It's the most controversial question: animals to eat or not to eat. Where do you stand on that?
So we'll start answering this question with some very interesting facts, which we came across again while we were writing the book. So when chimpanzees have a fight with each other, like a male chimpanzee and a female chimpanzee, if they fight, they mend their relationship with a kiss. Like they actually kiss each other to mend their relationship. Or pigs, if you ever see them sleeping, just like us humans, they love to cuddle each other when they sleep. When they meet each other after a long time, like if two pigs meet each other, they actually rub their noses with each other. Just the same way how we humans shake hands with each other. If you see a sheep and if you see a lamb and a sheep, the relationship between the mother and child is very similar to a human mother and child. And you'll see the lambs frolicking around fields, jumping. And when, we've seen that a couple of times when we visited animal farms or animal sanctuaries. And when we see, it feels like, oh my God, they look so like a human child running and jumping around. So the reason why we share these facts is because we as a society have been conditioned to believe that animals are dumb or they are emotionless. Or if not that, then they don't feel the same emotions that we do. But if we just observe the behavior closely of animals, we see how they act, whether it's fish or it's hen or it's chimpanzees or whichever animal, we will come to realize that they actually feel pleasure, that they actually feel joy, just like we humans do. And just how they feel pleasure and joy, they also obviously feel pain and terror. So when we talk about food having life, or when we talk about eating living food, we need to remember that any food we eat is not inert. It's not that our food is just a combination of carbohydrates and protein and vitamins and minerals. There's more to our food which we cannot see in a chemistry lab. And that is the energy that food possesses, the consciousness that food possesses. Now, when that animal who we were talking about, that sheep or that goat or that hen, is living its life in a factory farm where it is being grown, at unnaturally big sizes by being injected with hormones, because the bigger it grows, the more meat or the more flesh it will yield and the more profit the industry will make. When it is being grown like that, when it is being again crammed together in small environments, then when it is being transported in trucks to a slaughterhouse, when we were writing the book, when we were researching more about this topic, we came across this very interesting observation that when animals are put in a truck and when they reach the slaughterhouse, often the animals sense it, that they're going inside a slaughterhouse. So they don't get off the truck even. They don't want to step out of the truck because they know it.
They smell fear.
They smell fear. They have a very strong instinct. But then the workers have to get them into the slaughterhouse. So they use these electrical rods which they put on the animals to force them into the slaughterhouse. Now, when the animals are inside the slaughterhouse, they see the other animals that they had been with are their companions. Whether they were in the factory farm with them, they've been living with them, they were their peers. Now, when they see their peers die right in front of them, it makes them feel extremely agitated, extremely fearful. And then a few minutes later, they are hung on that conveyor belt upside down, and a knife slits through their throat, and they're chopped up into pieces and served to us in the name of food. But when all of this happens to them right before they get on that belt, the feelings that they experience are, of course, as one can imagine, they experience a lot of fear, they experience a lot of sadness, exhaustion,
the trauma.
And all of those feelings are stored within their bodies. Our body keeps a score of these feelings. And even when their flesh is chopped up into pieces, those feelings haven't just disappeared from their flesh. They stay within the flesh, deeply embedded on an energy level. And then when we ingest that flesh, that dead flesh, what are we doing? We're basically not just ingesting protein or flesh or meat, we're also ingesting each of those feelings that the animal felt right before it was slaughtered. This is not to say that, you'll eat meat today and tomorrow you'll become more angry or exhausted or fearful. But over time, when we continue eating, these feelings accumulate within us.
I wish there was a way to test this, or to, because it's not something you can scientifically validate.
Yeah.
It's discarded.
I'm sure there is, because I've heard so many people who when they go on a spiritual journey, there's something inside them that just doesn't let them eat meat anymore, doesn't sit right with meditation and whatnot. So I'm sure, as you talk about food not being inert and having that energy, I'm sure that energy is, being passed on somewhere that's making you feel uncomfortable.
I mean, the feeling is very real.
Yeah.
I was saying, if someone were to say this product has this much life force energy, I think that's something one experiences, but there's no numerical value to back it up in that sense.
Is that next for the Satvic movement R&D team? This is what we're getting onto. That's an idea that's been germinated.
Yeah, but for anyone who applies basic common sense, this makes sense that it's not, there's a living being, it has emotions, you're torturing it, you're killing it, and then you believe that, okay, now it's only a piece of meat, everything else is taken away. Doesn't make sense.
One analogy that, again, my teacher had shared, which really stuck with me, he asked us in one of his lectures that when a person dies or when anyone dies, what happens to it? Where do you take it? And everyone in the audience answered that you take it to the cemetery or you take it to the graveyard. He then asked that when an animal dies, where do you take it? Take it to your stomach. Aren't you making your stomach, your gut, a graveyard then for these dead creatures? And that's something that just the image of that stuck with me. And it forces me to think that when we are eating animals, aren't we making our bodies a shamshan ghat, a graveyard? And how can we have energy when we are feeding our bodies death?
Yeah, that's a powerful visual. Just imagining dead bodies lined up. A lot of Satvic school of thoughts and a lot of Satvic diets, as people understand it, allow the consumption of ghee. Ghee is permissible in a lot of ways. What are your thoughts on ghee, especially when ghee is making a comeback and it's so ingrained in our culture? We use it in our rituals. And I know a lot of people, who would say, I'm okay giving up every other animal product, every other milk product, but ghee is essential to my diet, and it's healthy for you, and it has healthy saturated fat. Where does ghee stand in your idea of a sattvic diet and the rejection of animal products?
So, see, we've discussed a lot about the raw material, right? The raw material is dairy, it's milk. Now, when the raw material is, for the lack of a better word, poisoned, then any byproduct that is coming out of that raw material will have the same properties. So it's like if if I'm a potter and I have a piece of clay with me and it's a big pile of clay, and I break it into small pieces. If that clay is stained, if it's tainted, if it's black, every small piece that I make out of it will have the same properties as that larger block. It can't be that the larger block is stained and it's not good quality clay and a small block coming out of it is good quality. That's just impossible. It becomes so easy to understand this when we look at an example like this. But when we look at milk, we think, oh, okay, milk is bad, dairy is bad, but ghee is something coming out of it, and that's good for us. How so? If we just apply basic common sense, it will have all the same properties, the same cortisol levels, the same stress hormones, the same indigestive capability as the rest of the dairy that we talk about.
So why do Sattvic diets and Ayurvedic diets promote the consumption of ghee, and why are we still told that it's good for us? And ghee is a superfood, is what I hear nowadays, because of a lot of nutritionists are promoting it, a lot of doctors are recommending it.
For the simple reason that when these Ayurvedic scriptures were written, where we are borrowing our source of knowledge from, when these were written, in those times, it may have been a superfood. Because in those times, the way it was extracted, the quality of the milk, the way we were looking at the cow was not like a machine, but like a mother. So in those times, it may have been a superfood. The problem today is that we want to treat the cow in a very different way, but we want to follow the rituals or the texts of that day. How does that add up?
Because Ayurveda also promoted the eating of non-vegetarian food as well, but we've somehow disconnected from that bit, and we stick on to ghee more than anything else. Are there any good alternatives or replacements of ghee that you found over time that both of you use?
Yeah, even for an Ayurvedic doctor, if you sit down and explain to them that this is a choice that you don't want to make of eating animal products, and you explain to them, they will find solutions. Ayurveda is not about, okay, tomorrow onwards you only have to do this. I mean, as a doctor, they must respect your choices and give you alternatives. So oftentimes we have probed people who we know, and they do recommend that there is a certain fat component in the ghee, which is what they want the body to benefit from. And coconut oil is a great alternative, which has great source of fat as well in that regard. So this is not us suggesting a recommendation as an alternative of ghee, but even doctors who recommend this when they respect your choice and they want you to get the benefits. So definitely coconut oil is one option. And if I'm not wrong, I have also seen, I don't know this personally, but people do make plant-based ghee as well. I've not tried them, but I would be curious to know.
Why don't you share how you use like coconut butter?
coconut butter.
on your roti.
So
Coconut butter.
coconut butter, yeah. I don't know why I forgot about that. So it's basically when the coconut dries up, it becomes a khopra.
Yeah.
The dried
The
coconut. The desiccated.
coconut.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So when you blend that, just like you blend peanuts to make peanut butter and almonds to make almond butter, you can make coconut butter. And in the middle, I really wanted to, change something up in the roti. So we started adding a lot of coconut butter. And it almost looks exactly in the sense like butter. And it is very sweet by flavor. And I quite enjoyed the sweetness in the roti. But I totally forgot about that. And you reminded me on it again.
I'm getting 2 recipes out of this. I'm going to try the sesame seed milk and
Oh,
I'm going
that's
to try
tasty.
the coconut butter. And I've added ashcot juice to my
Oh, wow.
to my diet as well. And I forgot to mention it's not sustainable tea with Shreya today. It's sustainable coconut water as well. So I
Awesome.
stayed away from tea and coffee. So there's changes happening immediately. You recommended substitutes for ghee, but are there any alternatives to cow's milk and other milk products such as paneer?
Yeah.
So many substitutes for almost everything available. We can share with you our favorites. Yeah. What's your milk substitute?
For milk, majorly 2 things. You can
How about
substitute.
you guess what her favorite milk is? Now I want to know if she
See,
knows
it
what
depends,
your
you know
favorite
what?
plant-based milk is.
If you're making smoothies, it's a little different. If you're making soups, it's a little
If you're
different.
making curries, it's a bit
Little
different.
different.
If you're making desserts, it's a bit different.
Wow, okay. So there are a lot of alternatives here.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Okay,
quite
spill the
honestly,
tea, not spill the milk.
the most widely used one at our home is coconut milk. Have you tried it?
Yes, I love coconut milk. I could have guessed that. I would have gotten like 100
Yeah.
points for guessing that right. I love
So-
coconut milk.
Yeah, whether it's pumpkin soup or it's a smoothie in the morning or it's a Thai curry, coconut milk is a staple at our home and you'll find it available at any time. But it's delicious and it serves the purpose and we never feel like we're missing milk when we're adding coconut milk. You want to talk about almond milk?
The second one is almond milk. Almond milk is even easier to make than coconut milk. You just have to soak some almonds, blend them in the morning with water, and if you want your milk thin, you can just sieve it through a muslin cloth. And again, almond milk is great for smoothies. It's great for desserts. So we make this Satvic kheer, which we make using either brown rice or quinoa with almond milk and jaggery and some pistachios and saffron. And it just tastes divine. And we make lots of other desserts, but coconut milk and almond milk usually are great substitutes.
Forget me making things at home. I'm just coming over.
Yeah.
How about I just come over for this space
You're
that's
most
welcome.
happening. Next time we're in Bangalore,
The
you're
trip to Bangalore needs
invited
to
to
happen.
our home and we'll...
Because quite honestly, it's hard to, you have to taste them to know how tasty it can be. Because the mind can't accept that, oh, coconut milk, oh, how will it be? When you taste it, you're like, wait, this doesn't have milk? And we're like, yeah. So it really is something you got to taste.
Even chas, so I remember we used to do workshops earlier at Satvic Movement, 8-hour-long workshops, morning till evening, and people used to come to learn about the Satvic way of life. And, we had some breaks in the middle. And right before we went into the topic of milk, we used to serve them this chas. And this chas was made with some mint, some jeera, salt, etc., lemon, I think. And people just felt like they just had normal chas. And when they would come back into the hall, I would tell them that, did you notice any difference? It was actually made of coconut milk. And they were like, what? No, I can't believe that. Because they had it thinking it was the normal deal. So that's how we have seen most times. Like when you serve other people plant-based substitutes, they cannot tell. It's not like these plant-based substitutes feel like a substitute. They feel exactly the same as the real deal.
The secret is not to tell them before that it's plant-based, because then they automatically become food scientists and they start picking out differences psychologically when they're having it. But I think if you don't tell them that it's vegan or it's plant-based, people most of the times can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Any alternatives to paneer?
We make homemade tofu. And this is again one of those things where people will not know until we tell them that, do you know you don't eat paneer? Because then the gravy is exactly like what we make with paneer, like tofu makhani. That's a great substitute. However, we do recommend, if possible, making it at home versus what's available in the market, because oftentimes what's available in the market is preserved for a very long time in the case of tofu.
Often
and
it also has stabilizers and thickeners.
Other things added. But to make it at home is relatively easy. It does take a little bit of getting used to in the beginning, like anything new. But once your hand gets set at it, it's available.
Yeah, you see, like all these things for someone who's listening will feel, oh, now I have to make coconut milk. Oh, now I have to make tofu. And then
How
we're
will I
going
do
to
all
tell
this?
you two, three more substitutes, and they'll be like, oh, like I don't want to do this. This is too much work.
Tomato sauce. I saw that one. Homemade
Yeah.
tomato sauce. Like, yeah, so you added one more thing to the list.
Yeah. But how we like to think of it is that you don't need to start with all. Like, even if you just replace one thing, just milk, that's easy. Almond milk or coconut milk, that's the easier one of all. Just you start with that and then start replacing the others. And you will soon realize that, from the outside, it seems like a very big change. But soon it becomes the culture of your home. It becomes the culture of your kitchen. If you have domestic help at home, you could teach them. And it doesn't take too much time. Like 2-3 times you teach them, they get the hang of it. Next time they bring you your morning milkshake, instead of having cow's milk, you'll have coconut milk or almond milk in it. So it becomes a culture of the kitchen after a certain point.
Let's complete the substitutes. So the other one is curd, dahi. And for us, more than dahi, it was, we make this delicious papri chaat. I don't know if you've ever had it. Sev puri also called in. Wait, sev puri has curd here? Yogurt here?
Sev puri doesn't have curd here, no.
So there's
Dahi chaat.
Dahi chaat.
Yeah.
So in Calcutta, we call it papri chaat. But that's something that we both really enjoyed. And then we had to find an alternative for the yogurt in the dahi, in the chaat. And can you guess what we started making it with?
I have it with cashew. I've had delicious cashew dahi. I've had delicious peanut curd as well.
Yes.
Was
So
that
we
the right
make it
answer?
with
Okay.
peanuts. I'm sure you can make it with cashews also. But it's surprisingly tasty.
And
Again,
peanuts are also very cheap. The
affordable.
cheapest nut.
And protein.
Yeah.
So
All
I
in
don't
boxes.
think anyone has guessed in our house till now, whoever's come from outside, that they did not get the real deal, because the peanut curd tastes exactly the same. The texture is exactly the same. It ferments, right?
Can you guess what we used to ferment peanut curd? Do you know?
Not lemon.
No.
Lemon, no. Not vinegar.
How will someone guess this? I don't think anyone's
Maybe
going to guess.
I thought maybe you've made it.
A pill, because a lot of people use there's like
Yeah,
a
Probiotic.
but you don't
culture-
even need
No.
that. You don't even need that.
This is no one's going to guess.
Wait,
this.
so not
It's the
lemon,
most
not
unexpected
Very,
vinegar.
very
thing.
random. I'm
Oh my
wondering
God.
how someone even
give
thought
me
of
a
it.
hint. Give me a clue.
It's
Oh my God.
spicy.
It's spicy.
Yeah.
Use chili? No.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What? Chili to ferment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it ferment? Yeah, it is
You gotta try.
fermentation.
Chili tops, to be specific. So you only take the upper part of the chili, not
The
the
cap.
whole chili. The cap, you cut it, and you put like 6 of those on top of the curd. And those are
ferments
small,
it.
microorganisms that allow your curd to ferment.
Wow. Okay. Food scientists as well in the making. As I said, I'm just coming over to have
Yeah.
all of this instead of
Anytime.
experimenting
Most welcome.
my own way.
So peanut curd is a great alternative for dahi. We spoke about tofu. We
And
spoke
we
about
have the peanut curd recipe, the coconut milk recipe.
all of these recipes are on our
everything
channel,
the Satvic Movement channel.
YouTube channel. Yeah. What else? What are the substitutes?
Cheese.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a big one.
yeah. This is best made with cashews.
Cashews.
Yeah.
The cheese tastes delicious,
Do you use
especially on
nutritional
pizzas.
yeast in the Satvic
You
diet?
can, but it's
Not needed.
Not necessary.
for most of us. It's expensive. It's
Not
like
available easily.
not available for most of us. Just cashews. What we add to cashew cheese often, like we make one mayo, which is red bell pepper, cashew, soaked cashew, lemon juice, chili, and salt, and it makes the most yummy mayo ever.
But the red bell pepper is still a bonus. You don't need it for the
Yeah.
cheese. As in, like, it's very easy to make delicious cheese on your pizzas, on your nachos, on your Frankies, everywhere.
Not missing out on
Not at
anything.
all.
Clearly. I do want to talk about the book that I had the pleasure of reading last night. As I said, I stayed up until 3. I got until chapter 6. And then there was a chapter on sleep, which was a reminder that I should go to sleep. But what a life-changing book. And it says that there are 7 life-changing habits. Tell me why someone should read this and what someone would gain out of reading this book, The Satvic Revolution.
I think if someone's looking to begin their journey on health and is utterly confused as to where to start, because everything seems important, and they just want a very clear framework as to tell me what to do tomorrow, this book is a great starting point. It's written keeping in mind someone who's curious, someone who wants to understand the very basics of how to reach your peak ultimate health. So, it's written in a very fun way. So I'm sure you would have noticed that it's so easy to read, even if you're not interested in learning too much, but you just want to enjoy reading as a book. So it's written in a way that it's designed for someone who's either 5 years old or 55 years old. So that's what my recommendation
How
would
is
be.
this different from all the other health, wellness, nutrition books out there?
How is it different?
I think one is that the 7 habits that we share about in the book, they're all timeless habits, which means that they are not fads. They are not something that's true today and will become untrue tomorrow. Or it's not something that is, something you do for a few days and then leave it. These are laws of the human body. When this human body was gifted to us by Mother Nature, it was sent with certain laws that if you do this, this will happen. If you operate like this will happen. We live our lives in, we don't
Ignorant.
know, in ignorance of those laws. So this book is essentially telling us or reminding us of those laws, which were true 1,000 years ago and will remain true forever. So it's like the manual for this human body and how we can operate this body to its highest potential, this mind to its highest potential. So in that sense, we believe that these habits are timeless and that may be slightly different from other books or so, in the sense also one way we like to describe the book is it's like your lifelong health insurance. It's like a companion, a friend who you can keep by your side. And if and only if you start implementing these habits in your life, it's your health insurance for the rest of your life. We can assure that if you follow these habits, you will not fall sick. We ourselves, we follow these habits. We haven't taken any pills since the last 7 to 8 years of our lives. We've not needed them because these habits take care of us. We've not needed to spend money in doctor visits, in hospital visits. And earlier, this was the norm of our lives, to spend money, to spend time in pills, in doctor visits, in hospital visits, in tests, and scans, and all of these things. So, yeah, we'd like to say it's like a health insurance that will stay with you, the real health insurance for the rest of your life.
Thank you so much for being here with me today, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights. Please tell our listeners how we can find you, how we can support the work that you do, and where we can buy the book from.
So
it's a full plug. You can do like a full-on camera plug of all your work, the YouTube channel, Instagram, and also where we can buy the book from.
If you want to learn more about the Satvic lifestyle and how you can make these switches to plant-based living, then we have an entire YouTube channel with many videos dedicated to these topics. Some videos go deep into these topics, and there are many recipe videos where you can learn how to make these plant-based recipes as well. So you can search Satvic Movement on YouTube and feel free to experience, learn, and implement all these habits through the videos.
And the book is simple. It's available on Amazon. It's available at many, many bookstores. So you can get it from there.
Thank you so much, Harshvardhan and Subah, for being here with me today and for sharing all the valuable insights that you've shared with me that I'm sure are going to change the lives of hundreds and thousands of people, as you already do. I've got a small token of appreciation for you from a friend of mine, Swayam, who runs a brand called Suspire. Suspire is a vegan and sustainable e-commerce marketplace that has over 300 brands across different categories such as home, beauty, personal care, apparel, accessories. They're on a mission to make eco-friendly shopping convenient and accessible and helping consumers make more conscious choices. I think the perfect gift for conscious change makers such as the two of you. Thank you so much. That's for you.
Thank you
so
Thank
much
you
for
so
conscious
much.
change makers. You don't have to share that. There's one each.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
There's no. That's for
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for having us on this podcast. Honestly, it was a really beautiful experience for us. Like we said in the beginning, that this is a topic about being plant-based. We feel so passionately about, and oftentimes we're not able to freely express ourselves. We feel like we've seen so much, we've heard so much, and you gave us the opportunity to freely share our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences. So we feel really, really grateful.
The honors, honestly, all mine. And for you to have this platform to talk about a cause that you so deeply believe in, as we started off saying, it's bigger than all of us. And for us to champion the cause, thank you for doing what you do, and your work and your voice. It is changing lives, and you know that it's changed the lives of millions of people, and I know it'll continue doing so. Thank you.
We wish you all the very best.
Thank you.